Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up the next 1 hour, global leaders gather in New Delhi for Raisina Dialogue, conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics. Prime Minister Modi and Finland President to inaugurate the event. Finland President Alexander Stubb to hold talks with Prime Minister New Delhi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. Trade innovation top agenda of the discussion. India dismisses claims circulating that its ports were being used by US Navy during the ongoing conflict involving Iran, stresses such assertions are baseless. Israel begins new wave of strikes in Tehran, while in the US Senate bid to limit Trump war power fails. Nepal votes in general election, promise of reform by political parties tops the agenda. And in T20 World Cup, India to face England in the second semi-final. Winner of the game to face New Zealand in the final on Sunday. The Raisina Dialogue, India's premier conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics, will begin on Thursday. The event will be inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi along with Finland President Alexander Stubb, who will be the chief guest and keynote speaker. Organized by the Observer Research Foundation in partnership with the Ministry of External Affairs, the three-day event brings together global leaders, policymakers, academicians, industry experts and journalists. Prominent speakers include Minister of External Affairs Dr. S. Jaishankar and US Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau. The theme of this year's Raisina Dialogue is Samaskara, that is assertion, accommodation, advancement. A civilizational tool, Samaskara, is a statement of continuity. Finland President Dr. Alexander Stubb arrived in India on a 4-day visit. Upon his arrival, the visiting dignitary was accorded a guard of honor. Now, this is the first visit of President Stubb to India in his present capacity. During the visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Alexander Stubb will hold discussions on strengthening bilateral cooperation across wide spectrum of areas. They will also exchange perspectives on regional and global issues of mutual interest, including cooperation in multilateral fora. President Stubb will meet President Murmu, Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. India and Finland share warm, friendly and multifaceted relations rooted in shared democratic values. Finland is a valued partner for India in the European Union and the Nordic region. India also welcomed Minister Dhananjay Ramphul, Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade of Mauritius on his arrival in New Delhi to attend the Raisina Dialogue 2026. India and Mauritius share an enduring partnership rooted in shared culture and heritage and strong people-to-people ties. Bhutanese Foreign Minister Lingpo Dien Dangyal is also in India to participate in the 11th Raisina Dialogue. India-Bhutan partnership is founded on deep mutual trust, enduring friendship and goodwill. His visit is expected to further strengthen bilateral cooperation and impart renewed momentum to the close and long-standing ties between the two countries. India also extended a warm welcome to Malta's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs and Tourism, Ian Borg, in New Delhi for participating in the 11th Raisina Dialogue. In a post on X, India's Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said that India and Malta share friendly and cordial relations anchored in strong people-to-people ties. Moving on, Nepali people are exercising their democratic rights today after the Gen Z protest toppled the Holi government. The race is for 275 seats in which 165 members will be elected directly by the people and 110 members will be chosen by proportional representation. The voting process for the House of Representatives member election commenced nationwide at 7 a.m. Nepalese time. Voting is being conducted in all the 77 districts across the country in a single phase and will conclude at 5 p.m. Nepal time. A total of 65 political parties are contesting elections. In the first phase, in the first past the post system, there are 3,017 male candidates, 388 female candidates and one other, making a total of 3,406 candidates in the electoral race. The election comes months after mass protests reshaped the country's political landscape and brought in an interim government. And now we take a look at our next report on what all took place in 2025 and what is expected from the elections now. DD India Siddharth Bhardwaj reports from Kathmandu.
On September 8, Nepal witnessed widespread protests across the country. It all began after the government imposed a ban on social media sites, citing that tech companies had failed to meet the deadline to register under new guidelines. The ban angered the country's youth, who took to the streets. However, the protests later evolved into an anti corruption movement, ultimately resulting in the toppling of the KP Sharma Oli government. On September 12, 2025, Nepal saw history in the making when former Chief Justice Shushila Karki was sworn in as interim Prime Minister, becoming the first woman to hold the top post. According to official data, nearly 19 million Nepalis are eligible to vote, including 800,000 first time voters. The country is divided into 7 provinces: Kosi Province, Madhesh Province, Bagmati Province, Gandaki Province, Lumbini Province, Karnali Province, and Sudur Paschim Province. Key political parties contesting the election include the RSP, Congress, UML, NCP, RPP, PSPN, Janamat, and UNP, along with several other smaller parties. The main contenders are a mix of veteran leaders and fresh faces, from former Prime Minister and leader of the Communist Party UML KP Sharma Oli to Nepali Congress leader Gagan Thapa and 35-year-old Balendra Shah, one of the most talked about figures in this election. A former rapper and civil engineer, Shah rose to prominence as a popular mayor of Kathmandu. With a mixed electoral system in the country, voters will elect 275 members of parliament through a combination of first past the post voting and proportional representation. The key issues driving the vote are corruption, jobs in the economy, foreign relations, climate concerns, and local governance.
We will be joined in by our correspondent in a short while from now, but at present we are getting you the latest from Nepal. Nepal will be voting today at 7 a.m. Nepalese time. The polling had started and Nepalese people are exercising their franchise. Remember, this comes after the Gen Z protest toppled the Holi government, and the race is on for 275 seats, in which 165 members will be elected directly and 110 members will be chosen by proportional representation. Our correspondent Siddharth Bhardwaj is joining us from Nepal. Siddharth, good morning. As Nepal readies for the voting today, 7 a.m. Nepalese time, the election began. I would want you to explain to our viewers, how is the election this time different from the previous editions?
It's completely different. A very good morning to you, Preeti. I'm here in Kathmandu and the voting has started here in Nepal. And answering your question, the voting this time is different. Why? Because there is a youth domination in these elections, and it is expected that youth will play a key and pivotal role in these elections. It goes back to September last year, when youth-led protests rocked the country economically also, and political stability of the country also took a hit. After that, elections are happening for the first time, so it is very crucial elections, because it will give direction to the country economically as well, and it will also decide the country's foreign relations with the other countries, especially with the neighbors. Talking about the people here in Nepal, they are very, very excited, Preeti, to vote this time. Not just because they are voting, because they are voting and they are voting for a change, they say. In these elections, around 19 million people, eligible voters are there, who will go to vote, who will cast their ballot, and around 800,000 are the first-time voters. So the first-time voters are very, very excited. And they're saying they're voting for a change. They want good governance. They want government to, do work for the welfare of the people of Nepal and generate employment and more opportunities for the youth and for the people of Nepal, because they say that they want to go to other countries to work. They want to stay here and work so that they can take care of their families and some other things which they cannot do when they're there in some other foreign countries. So that remains a major issue. Apart from that, they want good governance. They want government to focus on climate change as well, and there are some other issues also. So keeping all these things in concern, these are very, very important elections, and polling has started at 7 a.m. Nepalese time, and it will end at 5 p.m. Nepalese time. When you talk about the electoral process of Nepal, Preeti, then these are the House of Representatives elections, in which people will elect 275 members of parliament. So what happens? 165 members will be elected through the first past the post, which is a direct voting, and then remaining 110 seats will be elected through proportional representation. So it will take a little while to actually decide for the authorities who will become the winner, keeping all these two processes in concern, and after that the winner will be announced, but it will take a while. However, Election Commission has promised that the results for the first past the post, which is the direct voting, will be out in 24 hours. But when it comes to the proportional representation, it takes a little time. So yeah, there is an excitement among the people. People are very, very happy that they're voting for the elections which are happening for the first time since the youth-led protests in the country in the year of September last year. So yeah, it has just started. As the day progresses, we'll let you know how the trends are going.
All right, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much, Siddharth, for joining in with those updates from Nepal. So that was our correspondent Siddharth joining us from Nepal, telling us how the day began there as we talk of polling that has begun in Nepal. We'll keep you updated through the day. At present, we're heading for a break, but after the break, Spain keeps firm on its opposition to US and Israeli bombings of Iran, even as Trump threatens trade reprisals against Spain. Cuba hit by widespread power blackout amidst increased US pressure curtailing oil shipments. Putin warns of potential halt to European gas supplies and hints at shifting to other markets. back after the break. You're watching DD India Newshour. India's Ministry of External Affairs on Wednesday strongly rejected claims circulating online that Indian ports are being used by United States Navy to launch attacks against Iran. The government's denial came through a post from MEA's official fact-check handle on social media, which described the allegations as completely fake and false. The clarification followed reports broadcast by One America News, which claimed that Indian naval facilities were being used by American warships to stage operations targeting Iranian assets. The claim quickly spread on social media platforms, including X and Telegram, triggering widespread discussion and speculation online. Responding to the reports, the MEA's fact-check account issued a direct rebuttal. It further cautioned against such baseless and fabricated comments. Air India is closely monitoring the evolving situation in West Asia and has started operating a few flights to and from Dubai and Jeddah to bring back stranded passengers, giving highest priority to their safety and well-being. Most of the operations to West Asia will remain suspended till 23:59 hours IST of Thursday after careful assessment of the current situation. While Air India plane will commence its scheduled operations to and from Jeddah from Thursday. Flights AI 2255, 2256, Delhi-Jeddah, Delhi, AI 2251, 2252, that is Mumbai-Jeddah, Mumbai, and AI 2245, 2246, Mumbai to Jeddah to Mumbai will fly. Air India has also planned to operate B777 aircraft, which has large capacity on the Mumbai-Dubai-Delhi route on Thursday to fly back stranded passengers. Air India is also assisting passengers with alternative arrangements and options of full refunds or complimentary rescheduling. Air India requested passengers to check flight status on the Air India website or contact 24/7 call center at 911-6932-9333. The other number is 6932 4 times 9 for any support. Amid the escalating conflict in West Asia, special flights from Dubai landed safely at several Indian airports on Wednesday. Passengers stranded by widespread cancellations and delays have found relief through coordination between airport authorities. Some flights from Dubai also arrived in other cities such as Chennai and Hyderabad. Passengers expressed their relief upon returning home. Let's take a look.
मेरा पहली तारीख का रिटर्न था 1 मार्च का, अभी वो कैंसिल होके 2 तारीख को वो भी कैंसिल हुआ, 3 तारीख का भी कैंसिल हुआ, फिर एयर अरेबिया में था 4 तारीख का, वो भी कैंसिल हुआ. अभी जो सिचुएशन है जो कल उधर हुआ है उसके बाद सिचुएशन बहुत खराब थी. उसके बाद भी आज सुबह को फ्लाइट मॉर्निंग में एमिरेट्स का चालू हो गया था.
बच्चों के स्कूल बंद हो गए थे, बट हम लोग को 3-4 दिन वेट करना फिरा, फिर फ्लाइट मिली तो हम आए. सरकार ने पूरा कोऑपरेशन दिया, यानी कि जितने लोग होटल में रहे सबको फ्री होटल मिला. हमारा होटल था 1 मार्च को खत्म था, सबको फ्री होटल दिया सरकार ने.
Meanwhile, in view of the evolving security situation in the Persian Gulf region, the Directorate General of Shipping has constituted a dedicated 24/7 quick response team to ensure timely assistance, coordination and welfare support for Indian seafarers. The team will facilitate effective communication and crisis response by working closely with shipping companies, RPSL entities, Indian missions abroad and the families of the seafarers. The Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways is actively engaged in ensuring the safety and well-being of Indian seafarers during this period, maintaining close coordination with all stakeholders to provide necessary support, assistance and evacuation facilities if required. India remains firmly committed to the safety, welfare and well-being of its seafarers. For support, seafarers can contact via email on support.dgs@government.in or they can WhatsApp or call on 900-404-8406. Iran said on Wednesday that more than 1,000 people have been killed in this country since Saturday as a result of US-Israeli strikes. The toll follows joint US-Israeli strikes on Tehran and several other Iranian cities starting Saturday morning, which resulted in the death of Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, his family members, top military commanders and many civilians. In the early hours of Wednesday, the US and Israeli forces struck a girls' school in Urmia in Iran's West Azerbaijan province. An airstrike hit the Hezbollah stronghold of South Beirut, early on Thursday after Israel had issued a warning to the residents. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said that Israel and the United States had made historic gains in their war against Iran. A spokesperson for Netanyahu also said in a video message that the attack was needed as Iran was using new underground bunkers to rebuild its atomic bomb program. Meanwhile, the International Atomic Energy Agency said the damage due to attacks was also visible at 2 buildings near the Isfahan nuclear site, but there has been no damage to facilities containing nuclear material and no risk of radiological release. President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that U.S. forces are in a very strong position in Iran, calling it tremendous progress after less than a week of war.
Position now, and their leadership is just rapidly going. Everybody that seems to want to be a leader, they end up dead, and it's an amazing thing that's taking place before your eyes, because for 47 years we were pushed around, and we shouldn't have been. You see it as well as I do. You see the tremendous progress that's being made. Their missiles are being wiped out rapidly. Their launchers are being wiped out. They're attacking their neighbors. They're attacking their, in some cases, allies, or not so long ago allies. And, you know, it's really a nation that was out of control, and they would have used it on us if we let them, if we waited any longer.
The U.S. Senate rejected a resolution aimed at curbing President Donald Trump's authority to continue military strikes on Iran. Senate Republicans backed President Trump's military campaign against Iran on Wednesday, voting to block the bipartisan resolution aimed to stop the air war and require that any hostilities against Iran be authorized by Congress. The Senate voted 53 to 47 not to advance the resolution, largely along party lines, with all but one Republican voting against the procedural motion and all but one Democrat supporting it. The measure had not been expected to succeed. Trump's fellow Republicans hold slim majorities in both the Senate and the House of Representatives and have blocked previous resolutions seeking to curb his war powers. Members of the House debated a similar Iran war powers resolution and are expected to vote on it on Thursday. A ballistic missile launched from Iran and heading towards Turkish airspace via Iraq and Syria was destroyed by NATO air defense systems. President Tayyip Erdogan said on Wednesday that Turkey is giving the necessary warnings so that the incident is not repeated, hours after Ankara said that missile launched from Iran had been intercepted by NATO air defense systems. The debris of the NATO air defense missiles fell on Turkish soil, the ministry said earlier. Turkey summoned the Iranian ambassador to Ankara to its foreign ministry on Wednesday to convey its protest and concerns over the ballistic missile fired from Iran. Spain has doubled down on its opposition to Washington's use of its bases against Iran after Trump's threats of trade reprisals. Spanish Foreign Minister Jose Manuel Alvarez said its stance on bases, on the war in the Middle East, on the bombardment of Iran has not changed at all. Spain has denounced the U.S. and Israeli bombings of Iran as reckless and illegal. Deputy Prime Minister Maria Jesus Montero said that Spain will not be vassals to any other country. Earlier on Wednesday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that Spain has agreed to cooperate with the U.S. military a day after President Trump threatened to cut trade with Madrid over its stance against the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran. Our correspondent Akshay is joining us to get us more. Akshay, what do you make of how do we expect the days ahead to pan out, even as we see that strikes from both the sides continue?
Well, you know, what we are seeing in terms of opposition coming in from Spain, you know, the kind of stand that it has taken as far as the days ahead to come are concerned, so as far as geopolitics, NATO relations, European relations are concerned with in relation to this war. You can see more fractures coming up, given the fact that the entire basis of launching this air raid, strikes against Iranian regime, strikes against Iranian leadership, has not been founded on a very solid ground, as much as we have seen the earlier conflicts that have taken place. So, you have no clear timeline, you have no clear agenda, you have no clear objectives, and that perhaps is the reason why many are questioning the strikes overall that have been conducted against Iran, that have wiped out the Iranian leadership, especially Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, and given the UN Charter, given the rule-based order of the world, most of these actions that have taken place against Iran were sort of crossing that line as far as negotiations are concerned, because talks were already on. Next round of talks in Geneva were slated to take place, and this is not just being seen by Spain, but many of the European allies, many of the NATO allies of the US have also questioned the entire basis of the conflict. That includes Canada to a certain extent. You have other countries as well who have said that they were not consulted before the strikes happened. That includes France, that includes UK. However, how the situation is going to turn out in the future is still difficult to say, because NATO still heavily relies on the US as far as its own security needs are concerned, and we have a administration in the US that is now actively urging the NATO allies and the allies that it has in the European Union to back its, not only back its conflict, but also to send support in terms of men and material. So that is going to become a sticking point, because and not just in geopolitics, but at the local home front as well for the US president. Because if this war or you call it conflict goes on for more than 4 to 5 weeks, the timeline that is given by Donald Trump, which it most likely would, because the kind of drone production that Iran is capable of, it can really inflict a larger damage for a much longer period of time. If US cannot win in a country like Afghanistan, that was much more poor, much more technologically backward than Iran, then you can only imagine the kind of devastation this conflict will have. And if it stretches on for longer, it is going to create a big problem for if nobody else but Donald Trump, because he has midterm elections coming in November, and this conflict, if it loses more American lives or goes on for longer, then the question will be raised that why did the US had to get involved in the first place?
All right, Akshay, we leave it here. Thank you so much for that analysis. And in more international updates, a power outage struck most of Cuba, including Havana, the state electric utility, as the communist-run government grapples with increased pressure from the Trump administration that has curtailed oil shipments. Cuba has experienced a series of major blackouts in recent years, even before U.S. actions to cut off oil shipments, particularly from top supplier Venezuela, after Washington's action against leader Nicolas Maduro in early January. Cuba's government has attributed its economic crisis to decades of economic sanctions from the U.S., contributing to the lack of investment in power generation and the electric grid. Mexico, an alternate supplier to Venezuela, said it would halt supplies after the U.S. threatened tariffs on countries supplying Cuba with oil. You're watching DD India Newshour, waiting for a short break, but after the break, Yaoshang Festival celebration in Manipur marked with vibrant colors and enthusiasm. Visually impaired students celebrate Holi with joy at Bhima Boys School in Bhubaneswar. Stay with us as we get you a quick glimpse of the grand chariot procession held at Konya Amman Temple.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Newshour. A quick relook at the top stories now. Global leaders gathered in New Delhi for Raisina Dialogue, conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Finland President to inaugurate the event. Finland President Alexander Stubb to hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. Trade and innovation top the agenda of discussion. Israel begins new wave of strikes in Tehran, while in the US, Senate bid to limit Trump war powers fails. Nepal votes in general election. Promise of reform by political parties tops the agenda. Russian President Vladimir Putin suggested on Wednesday that Russia could stop supplying gas to European markets now and move to more promising markets. His remarks came as the European Commission prepares a proposal to permanently ban Russian oil imports after Hungary's parliamentary election. Speaking to state television, Putin described the idea as preliminary thinking rather than a final decision and said that he would instruct the government and energy companies to study the option. He also stressed that Russia has remained a dependable energy supplier and intends to continue cooperation with reliable partners, including Slovakia and Hungary.
Still, they have said they plan to impose restrictions on purchasing the Russian gas, that they plan to do it in a month, with 24th being the last day, and starting from 25th, they will impose restrictions on gas, including liquefied gas. And in 2027, they will impose further restrictions up to a total ban. At the same time, other markets are opening up, and perhaps it would be more profitable for us to stop supplying the European market right now, to move into those markets that are opening up and establish ourselves there. There is no political motive here. I want that to be clear. But if they are going to close us off in a month or two anyway, then perhaps it is better for us to stop ourselves now.
Russian President Vladimir Putin announced on Wednesday the release of 2 ethnic Hungarians captured by Russian forces after being mobilized into the Ukrainian army. The decision came during Kremlin talks with Peter Ziastro, who requested their return to Budapest. A day earlier, Viktor Orban discussed the detainees with Putin by phone. The leaders also reviewed Russian oil and gas supplies to Hungary, with Putin stating that Russia continues to honor its energy commitments.
Speaking about the hydrocarbons, I do understand that this is a matter of concern for you, primarily the oil supplies. We see what is happening right now on the global and European gas markets. We are happy to discuss all these topics. As for our part, we have always met all our commitments and are ready to keep doing so.
Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, announced on Wednesday that Venezuela will soon present reforms to its main mining law to the parliament following talks in Caracas with U.S. Interior Secretary Dow Burgum, where both sides emphasized cooperation and investment opportunities. Burgum arrived with representatives from more than 24 U.S. mining firms, highlighting potential billions of dollars in investment and job creation. The visit reflects Washington's effort to expand American involvement in Venezuela's oil, gas, and mining sectors. The proposed law aims to allow foreign companies to develop resources such as gold, diamonds, and rare earth minerals. Rodriguez said that discussions covered various mineral sectors, while separate energy talks would be covered in meetings on Thursday.
We would like to ask for the cooperation of all members of the National Assembly to act swiftly. We want to be able to present the people of Venezuela, as well as national and international business sectors, with investment and development opportunities in the mining sector.
More than 200 people were killed on Tuesday after heavy rainfall triggered a landslide at the Rubaya-Colton Mile in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, according to the country's mines ministry. About 70 of the dead were children and many injured were taken to the hospitals in Goma. The Rubaya site produces about 15% of the world's coltan, used to make tantalum, a heat-resistant metal essential for mobile phones, computers, aerospace equipment, and gas turbines. The mine has been controlled by AFC M23 rebel groups since 2024 and was recently listed in a minerals cooperation proposal with the United States. The tragedy follows another deadly accident there in January. Moving on, the 7th edition of the India-Japan Joint Military Exercise Dharma Guardian is currently underway at the Foreign Training Node in Coimbatore, Uttarakhand. Around 120 personnel, each from the Indian Army and the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force, are participating in the exercise. The Japanese contingent is represented by troops from the 32nd Infantry Regiment, while the Indian side is represented by soldiers of the Ladakh Scouts. The exercise focuses on enhancing joint operational capabilities in semi-urban terrain through coordinated tactical drills and joint planning. The exercise will conclude on March 9th. The joint drills aim to enhance interoperability and strengthen defense cooperation between India and Japan while addressing evolving security challenges. Holi celebrations are underway in Manipur with vibrant festival of Yaoshang. On Wednesday, people across the state marked Pichkari Numit, the second day of the 5-day festival, with colors, devotional music and traditional rituals at the historic Sri Sri Govindaji temple. The celebrations also feature cultural performances and community sports, bringing people together in a spirit of unity and joy. Take a look.
The spirit of Yaoshang, Manipur's celebration of Holi, came alive on Wednesday as people from all sections of society marked Pichkari Numit, the second day of the 5-day festival. Celebrations centered around the historic Sri Sri Govindaji temple, where devotees cheerfully sprayed colored water with traditional pichkaris, soaking the temple grounds in festive hues. The atmosphere echoed with Sankirtana, a revered devotional music tradition, as local groups performed ritual songs, an essential part of observing the day and joining the wider community celebrations across neighborhoods. One of the highlights of the Yaoshang festival is the Brajamai, young women dressed in traditional white attire. They perform the graceful Halankar dance and take part in processions from the Bijoy Govinda temple to the Sri Sri Govindaji temple, reenacting tales of Lord Krishna and depicting the bond between Radha and her companions.
This is my first time coming here for the Pichkari celebration here in Govindaji temple, and I think after very stressful months for so many years in Manipur, I think people are gathered here for a celebration, for happiness and spirituality. I think this is a good place here to celebrate ourselves, to seek our blessings and happiness in the Holi.
As Manipur comes alive with celebration, the festival also brings communities together through sports and traditional games, setting aside grief and hardship to embrace unity and collective joy.
While Holi is celebrated through vibrant colors across the country, in Bhubaneswar, the festival took on a special meaning at the Bhima Bhoi School for the Blind. Here, visually impaired students celebrated the festival through touch, laughter and shared joy, reflecting the true spirit of togetherness that Holi represents.
At Bhima Bhoi School for the Blind in Bhubaneswar, Holi arrives not through sight, but through touch, laughter and unbridled enthusiasm. For the visually impaired students here, the festival is felt in the warmth of colors gently applied by friends and in the shared excitement that fills the hostel courtyard. Students say Holi's colors make no distinction between people. For them, the festival erases differences and creates a deep sense of belonging.
Holi to ek aanand ki parv hai, is par
Holi is a festival of joy. We celebrate it with great happiness. This year it feels even more special because all of you are here. These children also feel energized and confident that they too can celebrate every festival. Many people think that these children cannot achieve much, but they are capable of doing everything. That is the essence of this festival, that we can do anything and be included in everything.
sab mein hum shamil ho payenge. Ye jo Holi ka rang.
The colors of Holi makes us forget all our sorrows. After playing Holi, we all feel joyful. We live happily together in the hostel. During Holi, we have a lot of fun, perhaps even more than we would at home. We are really enjoying ourselves this Holi.
The Holi celebrations at Bhima Bhoi Blind School reflected the enduring spirit of the festival, bringing students together in a joyful moment of unity and belonging.
In Tamil Nadu's Coimbatore, thousands of devotees gathered for the annual chariot festival of the historic Koniamman temple. The grand procession of goddess Koniamman moved through the city streets, drawing large crowds and reflecting a powerful spirit of faith and communal harmony. Take a look.
A grand spectacle of devotion and unity unfolded in Coimbatore on Wednesday as thousands thronged the annual chariot festival of the historic Koniamman temple. The towering wooden chariot of the Arulmiga Koniamman temple carried goddess Koniamman through the city streets, adorned with colorful fabrics, intricate carvings and fresh flowers. Along Opanakara Street, devotees carried fire pots and karagams, braving the heat to seek blessings from the goddess revered as Coimbatore's guardian deity. Amid the fervour, members of the Athar Jamaat from a nearby mosque distributed water to devotees and passers-by, a gesture of communal harmony they have upheld for over 15 years.
I have been taking part in this festival for over 40 years. It is very nice here. Koniamman deity is our guardian deity. People come to visit this from various places near Coimbatore, including Tirupur, Palladam. The important part of the festival is Chariot Festival. People distribute buttermilk, food everywhere. We are very happy to be here.
This is my first experience at Koniamma Temple Festival. We are coming from Thrissur. I've seen it on reels, just like our Thrissur Puram festival. This is very famous here. To avoid dehydration, water and food is being provided to everyone over here. That is the speciality here. We are very happy to be here.
The chariot festival of the Koniamman temple once again showcased a strong spirit of faith and unity as devotees and volunteers came together in celebration on the streets of Coimbatore.
Up next, we're heading for a short break. Stay with us. We'll be back in a short while.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Nature is sounding the alarm, and when our ecosystems are under pressure, our lives are impacted too. In today's episode, we take a look at how these two are coming together to help us adapt and respond to a changing world.
When you conduct agriculture with Kadai cattle, you don't need to provide any extra materials or any other natural inputs to that field.
The AI does not see animals in the pictures, which then have to be found by humans. But also there are certain species, especially rare species, where we don't have a lot of pictures to train the AI, that the AI then cannot classify in turn.
Thanks to Santosh's information and awareness classes, that myth has disappeared. Now if we encounter a dangerous snake like a cobra, we immediately call Santosh to perform a rescue.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Newshour. Let's get to updates from the world of business now. US President Donald Trump met with leaders of major technology companies on Wednesday, including Google, Meta, and OpenAI. A White House official said Google, Microsoft, Meta, Oracle, ZAI, OpenAI, and Amazon will sign the pledge. The meeting was scheduled to formalize a pledge aimed at protecting consumers from rising electricity costs tied to the rapid expansion of energy-intensive data centers. The initiative is being launched ahead of the November midterm elections, with voters increasingly concerned about energy affordability and the increased strain on the country's power grids. The pledges include a commitment by technology companies to bring or buy electricity supplies for their data centers, either from new power plants or existing plants with expanded output capacity. Brazilian lawmakers have finalized their approval of a free trade agreement between South American Economic Bloc Mercosur and the European Union following a Senate vote on Wednesday. The collective approval by the legislature of Mercosur's members, that is Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay, is a necessary step for the trade agreement to take effect following more than 2 decades of negotiations. Brazil's lower house of Congress signed off last week, and the lawmakers in Argentina and Uruguay also approved the deal. In Paraguay, the agreement still has to be voted on in the lower house of Congress. Australia and Canada have signed new agreements on the critical minerals as Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney made a landmark address to the Australian Parliament on Wednesday. Introducing Carney in Parliament, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that his address represented the closeness of the ties between the two nations. He also said that both the countries are middle powers in a world that is changing and have decided to back each other. Carney, in his address thereafter, echoed the sentiment, saying that in a world of great power rivalry, middle powers have a choice: compete for favor or combine for strength. Carney's stop in Australia included the first address to Australia's Parliament by a Canadian leader since 2007. On the critical minerals agreement, Albanese said that Australia would join Canada's G7 Critical Minerals Production Alliance, an initiative to diversify and secure global critical minerals production and supply. Apple on Wednesday introduced the MacBook Neo, a budget-friendly laptop starting at $599, aimed at expanding its presence in a price-sensitive PC market amid global memory chip shortages. Powered by the A18 Pro chip first seen in iPhone 16 Pro, the device represents one of Apple's most affordable Mac launches in years. Pre-orders opened immediately with availability from March 11th, targeting Chromebook and entry-level Windows users. The model is designed to attract students and first-time buyers. Equipped with 8 GB unified memory, it reflects ongoing component constraints. Let's talk of sports now. We'll talk of cricket. India bids to become the first team to successfully defend the 2020 World Cup title as they square off with England in the second semi-final in Mumbai on Tuesday. In fact, on Thursday. Now, this is the third T20 World Cup, a semi-final in a row between the two teams, and each team, the winners, went on to lift the trophy. With the final berth at stake, the high-pressure knockout game promises to be a nail-biting and engrossing contest. Gaurav Kumar gets us more details.
The stage is set for a blockbuster showdown at the T20 World Cup as defending champions India take on England in the second semi-final in Mumbai. It is the third successive T20 World Cup semi-final clash between them, and each time the winners went on to lift the trophy. England had hammered India on the way to the title in 2022 before the latter got their revenge in 2024. In this edition, both teams have a similar campaign so far, losing one match. But India's top order has struggled, with opener Abhishek Sharma managing only 80 runs in 6 matches with 3 ducks. Sanju Samson's unbeaten 97 against the West Indies was a welcome boost, however, and India boasts explosive firepower in the middle order with Surya Kumar Yadav, Tilak Verma, Hardik Pandya and Shivam Dubey. There are fewer concerns over the hosts' bowling unit, led by spinner Varun Chakravarti and pace spearhead Jasprit Bumrah. While England reached the semi-finals by winning all 3 Super 8 matches, Will Jacks remains their trump card with 191 runs and 7 wickets. However, the failure of Jos Buttler and Phil Salt is a worry. But spinners Adil Rashid, Liam Dawson and Jacks could be dangerous. In bilateral contests, India have an upper hand by winning 17 of 29 matches, while England were victorious in 12. There have been 5 matches between the two teams in the T20 World Cup. India has won 3, England 2. At the Wankhede, both teams have won 1 match each.
So all in all, it's a new chapter for Team India, because whatever happened earlier, that is history. Now they have to create history by beating England. But that is not going to be a very easy task for Men in Blue. With cameraman S. Jayashankar, this is Gaurav Kumar reporting from Mumbai, DD India.
India topped the group stage while England remained unbeaten in the Super 8. DD's correspondent Gaurav Kumar analyzes the strengths and weaknesses of the rivals ahead of the marquee encounter. Take a look.
India and England back again to the Wankhede Stadium. This is the semi-final clash. So first of all, we will talk about India's strength. India's strength is their batting lineup. In first match, Sanju Samson scored 84 runs. Then afterwards, Ishan Kishan and Shivam Dube and Hardik Pandya. They all are performing. They have shown lot of courage in the death overs. In the last 4 overs, they've scored 57 boundaries. The weakness of this team, Abhishek Sharma, who is not performing up to his mark. He's just scored only 1 half century. So he has to gear up and pull up his socks for this semi-final clash. Coming to the bowling, they are heavily depending on Jasprit Bumrah. From the last 3 matches, their spinner, Varun Chakravarti, is not performing up to his mark. Though he is leading wicket taker with 12 wickets, and their fielding is also getting poor and poor. They've dropped 13 catches, and in the last match, they have dropped 3 catches. If we talk about the English side, their strength is their captain, Harry Brook, who has scored a century against Pakistan in spinning condition. Their bowling lineup is also very good. Jofra Archer is there, Adil Rashid is there, Liam Dawson is there. They are creating pressure on the other side. If we talk about the weakness of the English side, not performing by the Jose Butler and Phil Salt. The second weakness is this stadium of Wankhede. They've lost most important matches. With cameraman S. Jayashankar, this is Gaurav Kumar reporting from Mumbai, DD India.
On Thursday, New Zealand comfortably defeated South Africa by 9 wickets in the first semi-final of the T20 World Cup at Kolkata's Eden Gardens. South Africa, which has been unbeaten throughout the tournament, were restricted to 169 runs in 20 overs after New Zealand won the toss and opted to bowl. Finn Allen then dazzled with a blistering knock, scoring the fastest ever T20 World Cup century to lead his team to a dominant win. South Africa, the runners-up in the previous edition, had hoped to avenge their loss to New Zealand earlier in the tournament, but were outplayed in this crucial encounter. That's it in this edition of DD India Newshour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. Now, this app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Newshour.